Welcome to Serving Locally with me, your host, Michelle Dinas, the podcast where we spotlight service in the Longmont and surrounding communities. All right, let's connect. Hi, welcome to this episode of Serving Locally. We are here with Casey Hedrick of Early Childhood Council of Boulder County, or ECC for short. So thank you for coming on the show today. And we'll start with just a quick, who are you and what is Early Childhood Council of Boulder County, and just a quick overview.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. And thanks, for the podcast. This
Absolutely.
is such a service to the community. My name is Casey Hedrick. I get to be the CEO for the Early Childhood Council here in Boulder County. The Early Childhood Council, they exist across the state. There's multiple early childhood councils in different regions. Really what this organization exists to do is to help families and young people get the support they need. Typically, we're serving the kids between the ages of 0 to 5, trying to help them get access to childcare, trying to help our providers, our critical childcare providers, have skills, resources that they need to provide the services, and then working collaboratively with the community as a whole to help increase and support the childcare sector. If you know anything about childcare in our community, which you do with two incredible young people, then you know it's a challenge. You know that it's hard to find spots for kids to go. It's hard to afford spots for kids to go. If you're a provider, it's really hard to make ends meet on doing this. And so our organization exists to serve both stakeholder or groups, if you will, the families, the kids, and these providers, and help to level the playing field so that we can hopefully create a more equitable system across the childcare sector here in Boulder County.
That's great. Can you give us a little bit of background about your organization?
Sure. So early childhood councils were established through state statute in the 90s. So basically the state said we need to have some sort of a convener entity in local communities to help navigate childcare and to help make sure that parents know how to access childcare and help give providers, local providers, the resources that they might need. And councils have certainly evolved since then, but it was really derived from statute. And many councils, including the one here in Boulder County, have evolved into their own 501c3 nonprofit. And so now we exist as our own independent 501c3 nonprofit, which allows us to both satisfy the state through the statute, which we were set up to do and do the work. It also allows us to be really nimble and serve our community in the ways that our community needs. So a quick example of that, not unlike other organizations, but during COVID-19, right? We tried to step up and help providers by providing additional resources that might be of like the cleaning kits, if you remember, right? The gloves, the Lysol, all of those types of things. That's it, right? So we can be nimble based on our community's needs here in Boulder County, but we also satisfy and work closely with the state. As you have probably heard, there's now universal pre-K, right? Universal preschool. We're the local coordinating entity for that. And so what that means is as this is being rolled out, we help connect families who are interested in that to providers who are providing it. So helping to make sure that families who need access, they get access, and providers who are providing it get the families that they need for this program. So that's just one example. But it is nice to be that independent, nonprofit, because we can
do other things.
Totally. Like when the community needs something, we can step up. And, one of the things that I'm excited about that we're doing is on September 30th, this might air after that, but that's okay. We're hosting a childcare innovation summit. And so it's the first time that we've ever done anything like this. We're partnering with our councils in Larimer County and Weld County to come together and talk about childcare. And not to just talk about the problems, because it's easy to talk about the problems, but we want to talk solutions. And like, what could we do together to help make sure families have more access to childcare.
Well, that's great to collaborate because maybe they're doing something that's really working
Exactly.
and you could use that information or vice versa.
And as our community becomes more regionalized and dependent upon other regions, of northern Colorado, we feel like this is a good time to just talk, to take stock and say, what are you guys doing? And should we do it together? Or what are you guys doing and what can we learn from you?
Right.
So we're really excited about this. And again, another opportunity for us to be nimble and to step into a space that we hope perpetuate solutions in the long term.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I like that. What is your focus at ECC?
Yeah, I would say right now we probably have top 3 focuses. The first one is that childcare is really inaccessible. That depending on how much you make determines on the places that your kids can or cannot go. And so we have a lot of disparities when we think about kids between the ages of 0 to 5 and what they have access to and what they don't. And even if some parents can access childcare altogether. Focus on accessibility in our community. We know that kids between the ages of 0 to 5 can access childcare really only dependent upon their household income level. And that is not good from just an accessibility standpoint, that the resources that your family has either determines the opportunities that you get starting at such a young age.
Right.
To that end, we know how critical it is for brain development to have, a really high quality early childhood experience between those ages of 0 to 5. And so we're really focused on trying to make childcare more accessible for all kids across our community, no matter your income level, no matter any kind of neurodiverse needs or special needs that you might have, to try to increase accessibility. Zooming in on that just a little bit further for one quick second is really, really looking at the ages of 0 to 3. There is for all of the kids in Boulder County that are ages 0 to 3 that potentially need childcare, there's only 18% of spots available for them. That's all we have.
That's all that's available.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
So it's a really devastating population because there's so limited in terms of accessibility to services. So we're really focused on accessibility. The second big priority we have right now is focusing on early childhood workforce. We know that those that are providing both care and education to kids between the ages of 0 to 5, that they are critical. They are not just critical during times of pandemic, right? They're critical all of the time. And these are folks that are not earning enough money for the work that they're doing. They often are living at or below poverty level for the cost of living here in Boulder County. And for that reason, we see massive amounts of turnover.
Right.
That turnover eliminates spots for kids. That turnover does not allow a young child to have a high quality experience because they get attached to somebody and that somebody leaves. So workforce is a critical thing that we want to focus on. And then lastly, we're focused on trying to create long-term sustainable solutions. Ultimately, we believe that there's just not enough funding in the early childhood system for both families and providers to get what they need. And so to that end, we're actively seeking solutions as it relates to the potential to increase funding to this critical sector.
Who are you trying to reach with your organization?
Yeah, I would say we have 3 major stakeholders. The first one is families and kids. We're trying to make sure that families and kids know that we're here, that we're a resource. We can help you navigate to try to find the place for your child. There's some incredible resources out there for families. So we want to help you get access to those resources as well. We also are serving providers. Again, our critical childcare providers and educators. We want to be a resource for them for both navigating professional development opportunities, navigating state licensure requirements, navigating just increased education aspirations if they're interested.
Right.
And we also lean on them to tell us what they're needing. So we want to be that collective support for our providers. And then lastly, we serve our community, right? Everybody depends on childcare. There's not one business out there that probably doesn't have employees that depends on childcare. And so this is an economic driver. This is an economic proposition and value add. So we want to serve our communities in the way that if we lift up this system, we believe we lift up boats and, supports for everybody who's depending on childcare.
Right. What makes the work of Early Childhood Council of Boulder County different than other similar serving organizations?
Yeah. So interestingly, there's no other council in Boulder County. There's no other kind of convening and coordinating group as it relates to early childhood except for us in Boulder County. And like I mentioned before, these organizations were derived originally from state statute. And so you do have councils across the state in different counties or communities doing similar work. But as we zoom into Boulder County, there's really nothing else, right? So sometimes, you could liken us to maybe a chamber of commerce, right? That businesses go and depend on for resources and support. I think that we are that for our child care providers. And it's critically needed, right? Because if you are an industry that doesn't have that, it can feel lonely, even in an industry that's often very isolated and lonely. And so I find that we are unique in that, yes, we exist across the state, but nothing else like this exists here in Boulder County.
For your community.
That's it.
What are your greatest needs?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's two things. I think the first one is we need our community to come together and talk about childcare. That's part of why we're hosting this event. And we want to ask our community, how critical is this for you? We suspect it is critical. So we ask for engagement. We need community engagement. We need community involvement to come to the table and not to talk about the problem, but to talk about the solution. Because again, we believe that childcare is an integral industry in the tapestry of our economic, well-being, and that if this is an industry that's lifted up, others will lift up because of it.
Right.
And so we need community engagement and involvement in the solution. And of course, the second thing, as a nonprofit, we need funding. It takes resources to do this work. It takes resources to do this advocacy work. It takes resources to serve our providers, and it takes resources to serve our families. And so making a donation or, any kind of charitable contribution is always appreciated. We are an entity that qualifies for the Colorado contribution, I'm going to say that again. The Colorado Child Care Contribution Tax Credit, which is an amazing tax incentive here in Colorado, where your donation can get up to 50% of that back when you file state taxes. So community engagement and funding, those are our two biggest needs right now.
Do you have any events coming up or volunteer opportunities? You can touch on that again.
Sure. Yeah. So we've got September 30th, next Monday. We have the Child Care Summit, Child Care Innovation Summit. That's going to be happening at the Longmont Museum. It's going to include our partners at Weld County and Larimer County. We're going to come together. We're going to talk about solutions. We've got renowned author Elliot Haspel speaking, Colorado's Department of Education of Early Childhood Education's Executive Director, Dr. Lisa Roy, will be there, as well as an amazing set of panelists and elected officials to talk about this as an innovation. Secondly, we've got Parade of Classrooms coming up on November 2nd. Parade of Classrooms is a really cool thing for childcare providers to come together, and they do that. They do a tour across different classrooms across Boulder County, take a look at how things are done, success stories. They troubleshoot any kind of challenges that they have, come together for a meal afterwards, a little networking. So Parade of Classrooms is a really good opportunity to get involved if you're a child care provider and want to just get more connected with that community, learn a little bit more about how other folks are doing it. Especially when you think about that child care sector where everybody's, day in and day out in their program. You don't often have time to look around and explore. So those are the two big events we have coming up.
I love the collaboration within and reaching out. That is invaluable to helping any situation.
Yeah.
So that's great that you guys are doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, you hear this all the time as it relates to both young adults and adults, is this perpetuation of loneliness. This idea that, especially after COVID or in this post-pandemic, era that we're in, that folks are really isolated and lonely. I think oftentimes the childcare sector is forgotten in that. And these are people that are doing really hard work every day. I mean, if you're a parent or, aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, whatever, if you've ever caregiven for kids from the ages of 0 to 5, that's no joke, right?
No,
That's
it's not.
hard work.
It is.
It's such hard work. And you do you're doing it oftentimes alone. And that it can lead to loneliness and that can lead to isolation. So anytime that we can do anything collaboratively, we want to do it. And we want to make sure that people know that this is a time to just come together and be with colleagues. And this is an industry that's doesn't always do that. So we're excited about those two events. There would be some volunteer opportunities, both to plan and help make sure that they are successful. So if folks want to volunteer, they can go to our website, eccbc.org, and they can learn a little bit more about volunteer opportunities there.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, and they're in the QR code, and that'll give us into the how can people contact and find out more about you.
Got it.
But no, that's all good.
Okay. Yeah, so if folks want to contact us, find out more about us, I would start with our website. We've got an incredible staff group listed on there. You can look at folks' names and their title and kind of figure out, depending on what you want to get involved in, what might be your appropriate lane. I'm also happy to meet and greet anybody that wants to help, right? So you can start with me. Kay Hedrick at eccbouldercounty.org is my email. Happy to chat with anybody. And again, eccbc.org is our website, and folks can go there to learn more.
Outstanding. Is there anything else that you would like to add to the conversation, maybe that we just skipped over or you just feel passionate about talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I would add here is that this is a conversation that probably isn't had enough, and that this is an industry that I think can often be overlooked and forgotten. And it's really critical right now. And I think this is something that folks have maybe drowned or tuned out now. We're in a heavy election season, and we've got inflation is high and housing is high, and those are critical things. And I think the steady thing that's underlying all of this is the high cost of childcare and the inaccessibility for kids to be set up for a foundation of success. And that's not okay. And so
that's the future. That's our future.
This is our kids.
Oh, I hear it.
This is our kids, right? And we talk to our K-12 partners, and they say, you can tell in kindergarten, right? You can tell when the kids walk in, and those that have had this really high quality experience and those that unfortunately have not. And study after study shows you and talks about what that does for your trajectory in the future. And so it can't be understated how critical this time is. Right. And it can't be understated that we're in a crisis right now. When we only have 18% of slots available for kids between the ages of 0 to 3, that's a crisis. And it's not just about our kids, right? It's about our families that all of a sudden are making major employment decisions.
Right.
Major economic mobility implications of not being able to do what they want to do or provide in the ways that they wanted to for their family because they have to make a choice to not work.
Right.
Right? And so we've got to think about this as a community, and it cannot be done in a siloed. So we would just, I think, like to communicate that we believe that we're in a crisis right now and that we need the community to come together to help solve this crisis for the future of our kids, for the betterment
of our community, of the world in general.
Yes. So, we just, again, appreciate the opportunity to have a moment to shed light on this. And, hopefully this sparks some conversation with everybody in our community because it certainly impacts everybody in our community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What organizations do you, or what, here in Longmont, what early childhood, what would they be called? Preschool centers? What are they? Who do you support here?
Yeah, so we support any of our licensed childcare providers. We also want to support our FFN community. These are community members that are licensed exempt, that are taking in potentially nieces, nephews, or just, neighbors. Families, friends, and neighbors is what that stands for. And so we work with all of them, all different sizes and ranges to say, what can we do to help you? What supports do you need? We work with all of them, and we just try to create a space and opportunities for them to get what they need through the council, and then continue this work of advocacy, this work of we've got to talk about this. And I think that we've got some incredible champions here in Longmont, both that are providers, elected officials, business leaders, et cetera, that are tuned into this issue. And I think what we need to do is to kind of collectively come up with the solution and go after it. So that's kind of the next moment, I believe, right? It's like we get everybody in the room, what's the drawing room, and come up with that solution and then go after it. But, we've got some incredible folks that are thinking about this. We want others to come on board too.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being on the show
You bet.
and making some time and space to come out and talk about this
Thanks
with us.
for
I
having
appreciate
me.
it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for doing this. Just so appreciate your community work and making this possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you to my guests, my listeners, and my supporters. Serving together, we can strengthen our community. Please like and subscribe. Do all those other things. You know you got to do them. Because that's the easiest way that you can serve right now. All right, now go. Connect with others and be a blessing.